Hi there, I'm Kathleen. I love to hike, and I have dysautonomia, POTS to be specific. Today is December the 30th, and it's my goal to get in 10 miles by the end of the month of December, as I've been increasing my mileage by 1 mile each month. That said, I had a little bit of a setback and hurt my knee. I didn't acutely injure it, but it became troublesome to the point where I could not walk on it a couple days before Christmas. So I'm back walking again, but I need to be careful. So with today's walk, I don't actually know if I'm going to go 1 mile or 10 miles, but I will keep you updated as we go. I'm out here with a big question mark hanging over my head. My ego and my knee have been fighting a little bit, and I decided that I'd come out here, and I'm just at Mission Trails, so I'm nowhere exotic, but the reason I'm here is so I can have a bailout if I need to. So I decided, instead of taking like a 10-mile hike where no matter what I need to complete it, I decided I would do 2 or 3 loops, so that way if I'm done after 4 miles I can bail. I hope I don't have to, but I've just passed the 1 mile mark, and whew, I'm tired. My knee's a little tight. I don't think it's all the way to painful yet, but we'll see how it goes. Wish me luck. So this is me deciding to do a relatively flat hike today. Yep, that's what I'm walking up. Not entirely decided where I'm going to go today. I was thinking I might do this canyon loop twice. This is Oak Canyon. Hey! But I always forget how steep it is. It's pretty brutal getting in and out on that end, the north end. And there are kind of a lot of people here, which usually it's kind of rare to see even one person here. And I just saw like 6 or 7. But it's the perfect time of year in San Diego to hike, what can I say? So I'm at 2.5 miles, and my question is, can I do this 3 more times? And the answer is, I don't know. But I guess we'll find out. This is one of my favorite parts of this trail. So I wanted to go flatter than usual today to keep my knee safe. But turns out there's not a lot of flat without going and doing the same thing over and over. And while I usually don't get bored while hiking, the idea of making a whole bunch of loops on the flattest part of the park was really not appealing to me. So I'm heading back uphill. Went through Oak Canyon, gonna head up to North Fortuna, and we'll see where I go from there. Honestly, this is probably a terrible idea, and I'm not looking forward to coming back down this way. It occurs to me that I have to come back down this way though, because the river crossing is only dry in the spring and they haven't built the bridge yet. So this will be fun. So I'm routinely terrible at stopping. Usually I just want to keep going, get to the summit or wherever it is, take a couple minutes, have a drink of water, a little snack, and turn around and go back. That last hill, that was ridiculous. Gonna head up to North Fortuna, which is right here, and then I'll probably head over there to South Fortuna before heading back down. It's up, but it's not as up as where I just was. Just taking my 3 o'clock salt, had a couple bites of food even though I didn't feel like it, and I'm heading up. It was an absolute rookie mistake. I stopped and I didn't put a jacket on, and now I'm cold because I didn't realize I was a little bit sweaty and I earlier had my rain jacket on, so that didn't help. But I'm cold. Hopefully that won't last for very long. I'm pretty tired, but this is pretty spectacular. Makes me feel a little bit better for this last minute decision to go up. I just forgot to restart my watch, which is tracking my distance. So I just put in a good 10 minutes that wasn't being tracked. Look at this. So this is pretty cool. At the top of North Fortuna, pretty much hiked into a cloud, so there's your visibility. Well, here we are. North Fortuna, 3.5 miles in. Don't have time to waste, so I'm gonna take off and go the other direction. Alright, so let me tell you about my knee and why this is a potentially terrible idea. So, well, 4 days before Christmas, I went to a physical therapist appointment. I have a new physical therapist trying to help me out. I've got my right hip's flared out, my sacrum is like tucked under in some weird way, and one of my vertebrae is twisted. So it's probably been like that for a long time. Lots of SI pain, both in the joint and like the nerves that radiate from there. So I started doing my new exercises for 2 days. The next day I woke up and I tried to get out of bed, and I couldn't put weight on my leg. I absolutely could not stand up without wincing. It's just so I hobbled downstairs. I tried to cook breakfast. I could not. I spent the next 24 hours pretty much not weight bearing on my leg. So I stopped doing all of my exercises, thinking, okay, obviously something went too far, too fast. What I did notice is that every few minutes it would just stop hurting. So something was going in and out of place. But it wasn't going in and out of place on my knee. It was going in and out of place on like my back or my hip or my SI joint or something like that. So over the next couple days, I started to be able to put weight on it, but everything just felt really tight, like there were just rubber bands all over my leg. So gently started doing some more stretches with one of those like physical therapy balls to kind of roll stuff out, not quite as hard as a foam roller, and worked up to being able to do like 3 miles without it freaking out. And so last night I iced it and I put heat on it, and I iced it and I put heat on it, and I just went for it with a foam roller for like half an hour. And I know that not everybody thinks that's a great idea, but apparently it worked. But it's very important that my knee tracks properly. I have connective tissue problems, so it's very important that I don't injure it. So I'm doing okay right now. It's a little over 3.5 miles in. We'll see what happens. My legs are very tired. One way that POTS impacts me is that most of us have a hard time keeping on like muscle mass and have a hard time hanging on to the cardiovascular gains that we've made. Our systems are wonky. There's all sorts of problems, some of which are not fully understood. But we know, for example, energy production is off. We know that often blood perfusion is not fantastic. So even though I've got like blood pooling in my feet, it's not necessarily getting all the other places in my body where I need it. So I made it to the top of South Fortuna Summit. Just took a picture. I didn't record up there because there were a couple of people. So I just now hit the 5 mile mark. It's probably actually like 5.3 because of that time that I forgot to start my watch again. In any case, the sun's gonna set in about 45 minutes. So my main goal is to be off of the steep, ridiculous fire trail by then. And again, I don't know what my plan's gonna be. I don't know if I'll be done and go home or if I'll want to hike a little bit more. But I do have a headlamp and a jacket and gloves and water and snacks and questionable decision-making skills. Okay, but seriously, I wanted to say this before it gets dark. In life, I think it's important to make questionable decisions sometimes. How else will you know where your edges are? I took a break to have a snack and rest my knee a bit. We have a frog. And that might not be a big deal for those of you who don't live in the desert, but usually there's not a lot of water here. And so when it rains enough for the water to flow, the frogs come and hang out, and it's pretty cool. If I'm gonna do 4 more miles, that's like 2 hours. We'll see. I want to talk a little bit more about why I'm doing this. It's hard to know where to start without making it a really long story, but when I was a kid, my brothers were in Scouts. I was an active kid, played soccer, did gymnastics, marching band, rock climbed, hiked, stuff like that. And I went on a handful of backpacking trips and I really liked them. But I didn't have very many opportunities. At that point in time, I had like 1 week per month of a church-sponsored camp that your last couple of years you went on some short backpacking trips, which was okay. But my brothers were doing 50-milers, and I was really jealous because I couldn't join the Boy Scouts, and there weren't a lot of people my age and my gender who were just putting together 50-miler trips, you know? I'm a believer in dreaming big and setting slightly unattainable goals. So this is kind of a coming together of unattainable goals for right now and childhood desires. So when I was in high school, I did backpack some independently, went with some friends to a few different short trips, but I still never got that elusive 50-miler. And when I was in high school, I also joined an Explorer Scout post. It was the only branch of the Boy Scouts that allowed women in, young women. And we did some cool trips, but twice I trained to go to Mount Shasta, to climb Mount Shasta, and twice that fell through. The first time it was called off the night before due to bad weather, avalanche warning. And the second time I got mono. Then I, aged out and moved away. When I was 18 or 19, my church young adult group decided actually to put together an all-gender 50-miler. And I was really excited about it. I was like, finally, I get to do the thing. But about a week before we left, the woman who was like the women's chaperone, they wanted to make sure that they had adequate supervision. I have opinions about that, but it is what it is. So the woman who was going to be supervising hurt her knee like right before we were supposed to go. So the trip still happened, but only the men went. So after that, I got deep into my high school band directing career and getting my master's and doing all those things and not really having big blocks of time to dedicate to that stuff, and it just fell out of being a priority. I had to stop that abruptly because my salt alarm went off. So I'll stop and take salt here in a second. So I was saying, kind of what's no longer a priority, bunny. But when I could no longer walk, like couldn't make it down the driveway, and then barely could make it around the block and couldn't drive and all that stuff, inevitably priorities change. And when so much of my rehab was out here in nature, it rekindled the idea for me. Also, I think I mentioned before that while I was doing my rowing rehab initially, I watched a lot of thru hikers and developed a fascination for thru hikes. And I don't know that I could ever do one. found the frogs. I'm definitely making a questionable decision right now. Wish me luck. 6 p.m. Quite pie. So the little game we play from here on out is, how much is this going to mess me up and for how long? I should get back to the car around, I think, like 9.5 miles. So I'll have to, do an extra little up and down in the street there, which the flat should feel pretty good by then. So I'm just around 9.5 right now. And I'm passing the parking lot where my car is. Since this ended up tracking on my GPS rather than my watch, I think I've actually probably already gone 10 miles, but I want 10 miles on paper. Yay, ego. Anyway, I call this a win. Night, everybody.